We are live.
All right. Good evening. Welcome to our Monday night exercise, part 2 of our depth strategies series. If this is your first time joining us for one of these, don't be shy. Please introduce yourself. There's some regulars in this group who, if you come regularly, you'll see some of the same names over and over again. These are the folks that decided to not be shy and introduce themselves, and they get on Zoom chat part of these conversations. So please feel free to be part of that. We're going to start by looking at last week's exercises. I'm going to go ahead and flip my camera around. And so this was part 1 in the depth strategy series. And so when we're talking about depth strategies, we're talking about, and there is some discussion of this in the book, all the different tricks that you can kind of stack up on top of each other to create optimum depth in your art, and particularly in your tattooing. And so this was all about shape placement, overlap of shapes. And of course, I used other things, to add to the depth, including selective use of contrast, selective use of detail. You can see the largest amount of detail is in the eye and face. And then there's moderate amount of detail in these mushrooms, but they're lower contrast than the toad. You can see how the fern in the foreground is sharper and has that dark edge underneath its individual leaves in order to give it, high enough contrast to pop forward in front of that detailed toad, where these ferns that are behind the toad are lower contrast and not as sharply rendered, sort of out of focus. But, the placement of these shapes being in front, behind, you've got mushrooms which are tilting back, tilting forward. You can see how they're overlapping each other. Blades of grass that start out behind the toes and then come in front of other parts of the toad. So, there's lots of, little things going on in here meant to express depth. So let's go ahead and take a look at a few others.
So we've got Bruno's up first.
Oh, wow. All right. Very nice. Yeah, I like the strong outline on the ferns, and then things get softer as you get farther back. But yeah, you definitely have some nice overlap here. Now, the one thing I'd say about this is the ferns on the far left. It would have been nice to see those go more obviously behind the left eye, right there. You can see the fern just, kind of clips the edge of the eye. And if just a little bit of it went behind that, then it would be more visually apparent, what was in front and what was behind. But yeah, this is really neat. I like the personality on them too. I really put the effort into this one. Very nice.
This is Jason Lesser.
All right. Yeah, I like how these ferns kind of create this zone of space. And then the mushrooms, you've got the tilt going on. And the grass, nice use of perspective, where you've got the far foreground grass, which is a little bit bigger and thicker. And then the grass that's around the toes of the toad is about half that size. So that drops back really effectively. Nice. Yeah, the one thing I'd say here, go ahead and go back to Jason, is you've got some ferns that are farther back behind the mushrooms. Yeah, those two there. Might have been nice to flow them a little bit differently, so that the way that they intersected that foreground negative space fern might have been, like they were flowing in different directions, or different enough that they separated a little bit more. But really cool.
Oh, we've got Matt Jackson.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, I love the black silhouette shapes in the far background. That's really effective. Yeah. And then, you got some layering. in the far foreground with the fern, leg, fern, toad. Yeah, I like the volume in that mushroom on the far left, and the tilted back one. Yeah, both of those mushrooms are shaded really well. And then you've got the solid black one. It's a nice progression. Yeah, the zone of empty space in the middle behind the toad, it just seems like that's a spot where the eye is drawn, but there's not much happening there, where there could have maybe been, one or two more of those silhouette firm progressions or something like that. Because it's sort of like the composition, leads you there, but then there isn't anything. Seduced and abandoned. But yeah, that would be easy enough to do. Take you like 10 minutes. Good one.
And we've got Patrick Boothman.
Yeah, let me zoom in on that one. Yeah, I like the sort of circular space that you've created there. And the perspective looking down on the top of the cap of a mushroom. Yeah, that mushroom in the very far lower left, that circular shape there, is that meant to be a mushroom? Well, we're not all in the Zoom call, so I can't really ask him. But it's cool. I like the diminishing contrast going on behind him too. The one obvious thing that I would say, being the person that I am, is do you think that you've made your toad big enough for the composition? And I reckon that you could get away with going, another 30-40% larger without losing any or crowding any of the important design elements around it. Possibly worth trying. But yeah, looks good.
We got Quentin.
Nice. Got a lot of good ones tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I like how you created an oval frame for this. Yeah, the mushrooms create a nice little zone over there. The two ferns that are in the far background behind that mushroom, they kind of look a little bit like antennas or something. You probably could bring in a third one, or just kind of tweak their flow a little bit. Like if you did have a third one, you wouldn't want to center it between those two. Group it with one of them or the other, so it's a little bit more organic in their placement. I like the out of focus stuff in the far background. It's nice. And, the dark stuff on the ground makes the toes pop out nicely. Yeah, good one. Nice attitude too.
This one's Rod Graybill.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the white outline effect is great. Yeah, and how you use the white outline just on the fern and the toad, but then you've got the mushrooms farther back that don't have it, so they're allowed to drop back some. Yeah, so the overlap is clarified even further by the use of the white outline and then the strong black outline on the toad. Yeah, you're using all the tricks. Love the negative space ferns. Yeah, I thought this would be my wife's favorite out of the series so far. I don't know. I'll have to score these. These are all so good. Yeah, if I was gonna make one comment about this one, it's that the position and perspective on all the mushrooms is pretty similar. And so there might have been room to bring a little bit more variety into those. I really like the rendering on the skin too. Nice one.
All right. This one's mine.
Oh yeah. Yeah, those ferns. I don't know what they remind me of there, but yeah, I like it. I like how they kind of radiate away from the face, which brings attention to the face. The two mushrooms are really nice too. It would have been nice to see something coming in front of the toad.
Mm-hmm.
maybe a couple tiny little toadstools or something.
Oh, maybe I'll have to add those guys. I had a lot of fun with them, so I wouldn't mind doing some more on there.
Because that's the one thing I'd say is, you know, there isn't anything overlapping the toad.
Yeah.
And so then the smaller mushroom, the lower edge of the cap on that, and then the top of the toad's back, they come so close. You know, I don't know why I have such an issue with that. I feel like you either should back off a little bit, or you should just go for it and let them overlap, and show what their position is, what's in front of what.
Yeah.
Like in that case, that mushroom cap almost could overlap a little bit, but you don't need to necessarily do anything with that. But a couple little tiny mushroom guys down in the ground, coming up in between the toes or something like that, they'll give you a nice sense of scale, and it would also give you that shape overlap that we're trying to achieve here.
I like that. I'm gonna try it out. And then
Like the highlight in the eye is nice too. Yeah, Javon really went for it too. Did 4 thumbnails and liked them all. Yeah, so I'm kind of just like zooming in and looking at each one individually right now. Yeah, I like the rendering in these ferns too. Yeah, this one's cool because you've got the toad sort of, you know, he's partly covered, but he's, you know, ensconced with these flowing ferns. I really like the strong pattern on the mushrooms too. I feel like the toad should have been 15-20% larger. And again, you could have done that without, and you still could, you know, be in Procreate without really sacrificing any of the surrounding stuff. Let's see, number 2. Yeah, nice. Yeah, I like the out of focus fern in the far background. One thing I'd say about anytime you have a series of 3 or 4 things like that, there should be one of them that's obviously bigger or smaller than the rest of the series. 1 or 2 of them, just so they look natural. I like the grass. Grass gave you some nice cast shadow opportunities there that you capitalized on. This one, even if the toad is the same size as in the other composition, it looks a little bit more prominent. But you could still go a little larger with this toad, you know, without losing much. I'm just going to keep saying that over and over again, because that's what I'd be doing if it were me designing it and I was perfectly happy with the drawing, but I would still, you know, lasso and liquefy the toad, or, you know, just transform it up a little bit, just to see, you know, maybe it could be a little bit stronger with composition. Number 3. Okay, and then of course here you do have the larger toad, and yeah, I love the way that mushroom cap casts a shadow on the forearm. Yeah, this is a good shape overlap. Now the fern under the armpit. Yeah, I mean, that's fun, you know, because it allows you to bring the fern through the foreground without hiding the whole. Might be, yeah. It's just kind of funny in the armpit, you know, but it works. Yeah, and then you got the out of focus fern in the far background, so that makes for a nice progression. Since, you know, you've got these 2 ferns that are very similar in shape, same angle, and then you can compare them by focus and contrast, and it clearly sets one in front of the other. And now number 4. Yeah, I love the rendering on these mushrooms. Such a nice volume. Yeah, the one thing I'd say about this is that the 4 ferns almost look like the toad's wearing a headdress. The way that they're placed. I don't know. You may not see that, in which case, don't let me upset you or anything. But yeah, I would just play with the flow on those a little bit and see if there's a way that you know, for example, the two on the far right, if they were to, I don't know, I can't really describe it verbally, but instead of just arcing to the left, they would arc and then S curve back to the right as they went behind the toad. Other directions. So, all right, Sandy, start at the tip and now follow the arc of it and then arc back out to the right as you continue down, right? Sort of in that direction. Yeah, well, you know what? I may just, you should send me this file so I can tweak with it a little bit. Because
Cool.
if I'm going to make a big deal out of something as minor as this, I should back it up. But you know, I mean, the thing is these are all such good drawings, not just Yvonne's, but every drawing that's been put up here. That it's kind of like, you know, Michelle once said, and this kind of rung with me ever since, that the closer you come to perfection, the more obvious the flaws become. Right? You know, when you have a drawing that's really dialed in, little things start to stand out.
Totally.
Oh, awesome. Any more? Or is this all?
That was it.
Nice.
So before we get too far on anything else, I just want to say that there are some people that are seeing this because I have forgotten to change the destinations. And so I'm going to be shutting some destinations off. But if you liked what you saw, that's what we do every Monday. So you can come join us on the Reinventing the Tattoo app or at reinventingthetattoo.com. All right, you may go on.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and